Welcome back to the Batman Code, an attempt to find the literary unity in Christopher Nolan's epic Dark Knight Trilogy. In the previous lecture, I pointed to the Narnia Code as a model for the type of literary code in question, and in the first 3 videos of this lecture series, I'm going to prove to you, my dear listeners, that yes indeed, Virginia, there is a Batman Code. Simply put, the literary unity of the Dark Knight Trilogy is in the amalgamation of a backbone consisting of the 4 cardinal virtues outlined in Plato's Republic, which is fleshed out in the ideas and imagery of John Milton's Paradise Lost. The original title of the Republic, according to Diogenes Laertius, was Tau Daiku, of the righteous or synonymously of the just man, and that, my friends, is Christopher Nolan's vision for the Dark Knight. The righteous man, fallen though he may be, rising up nonetheless. And now, we turn our attention to the best superhero movie ever made, The Dark Knight, where my preferred title for the movie, The Devil Went Down to Gotham. And there's no better place than to start by examining the righteous man's worst enemy, this guy. Going back to our fresco by Raphael, we've covered 2 of the cardinal virtues already and discovered, surprisingly, that our hero Batman is characterized fundamentally by the second cardinal virtue, and his comrade in arms, Gordon, characterized fundamentally by the first. Even though these characters will grow, develop, and strengthen other virtues along the way, their characteristic virtue remains the same throughout the trilogy. But now, the third cardinal virtue, which is the most dangerous, subtle, and tricky of them all. And Gotham's one hope for turning our heroic hero duo, Gordon and Batman, into a platonic trio, that would be this man.
This man.
This great man.
This man, Harvey Dent.
Harvey Dent.
The Nolan brothers decided to make Dent the main protagonist of the second film rather than Batman. Dent can outdo his colleagues even at their characteristic virtues. Gordon's having a tough time reigning in the police department of Gotham, and Dent isn't quite as forgiving. Spirited? Hell, he's more spirited than the Batman. When Batman's fortitude is about to cave and when he can't bear the advice of his wise counselor Alfred to endure, Dent isn't even showing signs of battle fatigue yet. What's in a name? Harvey means battle ready. The man of spirit, like Batman. And the very first time we get a look at this guy, you know sure as hell is. And Aaron Eckhart did such a good job in this role, I'm not going to draw attention to the fact that he makes a funny face when he punches. Could Harvey be Gotham's Caped Crusader? No, it's probably this guy. Or maybe it's this guy. You know what, lady? You might be onto something. Furthermore, the name Dent means pertaining to the tooth. It's the same root word as dental or dentist. So when Mayor Garcia says the Dent Act gave law enforcement teeth in its fight against the mob, pay attention. That's a name play. The Dental Act gave law enforcement teeth. Got it? When Dent decides to turn him in by claiming that he himself is the Batman, pay attention to what's going on in the crowd in front of him. He's up against all of Gotham. And very important to the scene is that the auxiliary, your law enforcement, and the common people of the mercantile class appear in separate groups and voice their protests against Batman separately. The sheep and the watchdogs of Plato's Republic, they're all turning on Batman, and Dent appears ready to bear the burden instead. And the question remains whether he can be that third element in Plato's just society.
I knew the risk when I took this job, Lieutenant. I make my own luck.
Is he up to it? But to do this, he's going to have to master the third cardinal virtue, and that is not going to be an easy task. But he's still Gotham's best hope for the harmony that Bruce Wayne hopes will one day make the Batman unnecessary. And now on to our third cardinal virtue in the Greek, that's phronesis. So let's take a closer look. Raphael shows the lady phronesis as a young woman staring into a mirror which represents knowledge of the present, and to the back of her head, an old face reflecting a knowledge born out of the past and past experience, his old eyes illumined by a torch held by the virtue of hope gleaned from past experience. Raphael isn't the only artist to use this imagery. Look again at the allegory of prudence by Guillermo Machete. A young face, old face in the mirror. And most important, she's holding that dangerous viper from the Garden of Eden in her hands. It's always the young face, the old face, the mirror, and the snake. Probably about time for us to make another trip back to the art museum. So, once again,
gentlemen, let's broaden our minds. Lawrence?
probably missed that one, didn't you? That's Bruce Wayne staring down into his own reflection, his true face.
No, this is your mask.
In the background behind him, the voice of the old man, giving him knowledge born out of years of experience hunting down a jewel thief in Burma, lighting the way with the candle of hope while Batman considers the man he'll have to be in order to beat men like the Joker, a man who's going to have to hold the serpent. He's not the only one who's concerned about what kind of man he's going to be if he goes to those lengths. As C.S. Lewis writes in the Screwtape Letters, great sinners are made of the same material as great saints, the very same material, not just fortitude, but shrewdness, cunning, wise judgment, and in a word, phronesis. Benjamin Doet points out in his commentary, there's no good thing that can't be used for the cause of evil, even the virtues themselves. When placed in unfavorable circumstances, like good seed and bad soil, they grow up into the worst of things. People of weak natures hardly ever do any good or harm. They're just not the stuff out of which great criminals or heroes are made. Jokers and Batman share a lot in common, and philosophers, like the pseudo-intellectual Joker, follow the same analogy. Wisdom, specifically phronesis, or a gifted intellect, makes the best or the worst of all men. And that's going to be a perennial problem, and humanity has to deal with it. Every one of us has a belly, a heart, and a head. We've all got some portion of the third cardinal virtue, phronesis, whether it's our characteristic and defining virtue or not. It's important to Plato and Raphael that every virtue is defined with reference to the third. Sophrosyne is the reasonable or wise restraint of the passions and hands the bridle upwards towards wisdom. Andrea is the wise endurance of the soul and looks upwards to wisdom, guided by Andrea's own eyes and knowledge, not simply by faith and bridle. So everybody has some relationship to phronesis, wisdom, even if we have little to none of it inside of ourselves. Otherwise, we couldn't have any virtue at all. The question is not whether we'll have anything to do with it. Rather, the question is what we will do with it. Now, what's the human condition at childhood's end? What's the gift of the serpent in the garden? What's the instrument to grow or disfigure the image of God wherever we find it? What's the tool that can blow up our ship of state and civilization as a whole? The Greeks, as they say, had a name for it. They're all the same thing, and that word is phronesis. Once we've opened that box, we're going to have to deal with the problem. There's no going back.
Those mob fools want you gone so they can get back to the way things were. But I know the truth. There's no going back. You've changed things. Forever.
Finders keepers.
There's no going back. I know the truth.
Happy birthday.
Finders keepers.
You've changed things. Forever. Forever. Forever.
Phronesis, that's the devil's poison pond. Probably the crown of all virtues, but too much to bear in a spirited element that can't handle the weight of such responsibility that it brings. And in this scene, Bruce explains to Descartes off-screen that life on the streets among criminals taught him to get over simple assumptions about the nature of right and wrong. Maybe Selena Kyle had the right words for the situation in a parallel scene. Kids should not be stealing from somebody that they can't outrun, and that's the problem. There's a thin line between being sneaky and being downright snaky. Hey, how about that? Even the words are made of the same stuff. Great saints and great sinners, heroes and villains, you're going to have to wrestle with this virtue, and that means ultimately you're going to have to play the devil's little game. Going back to our fresco by Raphael, you guys noticed something, didn't you? Where in the hell is that snake? Not there. Reason? This fresco is located in the Vatican. High churchmen do not exactly like the idea that when you bear the role of the wise, the phronimo within a society, you're holding on to something dangerous, and even the best can fall. Look at this other piece of art from the same time period. There ain't a snake in it. Often the snake was replaced with a compass, and that's a reference to the proverb that says, "Teach us to number our days that we may apply our hearts unto wisdom." But notice, the Greek word for wisdom in that context is different, not phronesis. Phronesis is shrewdness, cunning, intellect. Sophia is better translated as understanding, or wisdom properly so called, and that brings us back to this fool. Roger Ebert notes that the Joker is more than a villain. He's a Mephistopheles whose actions are fiendishly designed to pose moral dilemmas for his enemies. Throughout the film, he devises ingenious situations that force Batman to make impossible ethical decisions which threaten the moral foundation of the whole Batman legend. Yeah, Mephistopheles indeed, but more accurately, as Charles Bellinger points out in this article, the Joker is Satan, and so are we, at least pretty damn close to it if we trip up on the third cardinal virtue. The following quote is especially noteworthy. Some scholars have commented regarding John Milton's poem Paradise Lost that Satan is the most most interesting character, much more so than Adam, Eve, the angels, or Christ. In a similar way, the Joker is clearly the most interesting character in The Dark Knight, and he is obviously a figurative version of Satan. Excellent point. But also, this is the closest I've seen any commentator come to correctly identifying the Joker, not merely as a satanic figure, but specifically the satanic figure of Lucifer presented in John Milton's Paradise Lost. Back to my thesis. The Joker is the serpent in the Garden of Gotham. You know, it would be really cool if an excellent method actor like Heath Ledger could have come up with some sort of trope to remind us of this character's snaky nature. Something really subtle and creepy. Something he could drop in all over the script. Well, I'll think of something eventually. Now, the serpent in the garden was more crafty than all the wild animals the Lord God had made. Depending on your translation, that crafty could be translated cunning, clever, subtle, skilled, shrewd, crafty. I even like the word feller in the Wycliffe translation, but the translation of the Hebrew arum into the Greek is always the same. He's the most intellectually gifted, the phronematados, the Joker. Not our beloved lad of spirit, Batman, is the most phronematados, the smartest man in all of Gotham, and the Joker knows it. As C.S. Lewis writes in his 1942 preface to Paradise Lost, what we see in Satan is the horrible coexistence of a subtle and incessant intellectual activity with an incapacity to understand anything. That's your Joker. Incessant intellectual activity, no capacity for understanding. Going back to our Greek, he's 100% phronesis, 0% Sophia, and his stubborn refusal to understand anything, that's the very heart of his depraved nature, making him paradoxically an absurdity, a jester, literally the cosmic fool. The Greek word for fool in both the Republic and the New Testament is aphron, literally without phronesis. Strong's Concordance defines it as lacking perspective because of short-sightedness, not getting the overall picture correct so you can act prudently or in accordance with the virtue of wisdom. By contrast, the wise man or phronimo has quick and correct perceptions. The wise man is circumspect in all his ways. Speaking of circumspect, here are some other pieces of art depicting the virtue of phronesis. My favorite's the one to the left, Titian's allegory of prudence. Notice the circumspect face is keeping watch over the dogs, wolves, and lions beneath. Sound familiar? That's definitely Plato's influence. And now, dear listeners, time to check your neck. Do you recall that the Batman needed a more flexible neck in this movie? They not only improved the costume, they specifically drew attention to the fact they did it, which is a heck of a lot better than focusing on some other useless aspect of the Batman suit. Ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta, Batman Maries, keep the nipples where they belong, and thank you, Mr. Nolan. Harvey Dent dies of a broken neck. Maybe you didn't see it in the movie clearly, but that's in the script. And lastly, but most importantly, the Joker has no neck. He's a stiff-necked aphron. All intentional symbols, as C.S. Lewis puts it, when Milton's Satan famously declares, "Evil be thou my good," it included, "Nonsense be thou my sense," and his prayer is granted. It's by his own will he revolts. Lucifer literally turns his own gifted intellect upon itself and against all understanding until that revolt tears itself away from his own head and sin is born out of his own skull. More on that later. Evil be thou my good, nonsense be thou my sense, and with it chaos my order and anarchy my justice. How do you deal with a villain like this? Remember, don't steal from someone you can't outrun. The Dark Knight is actually a cautionary tale. That which masquerades as phronesis is often merely the absence of sophrosyne. You guys can quote me on that, because no one is going to understand you. But you never gamble with the devil. And by the way, that's the Old English spelling of gamble, B-L-E, used by Washington Irving and his Knickerbocker history. I'll say it again. That which masquerades as phronesis is often merely the absence of rational restraint, sophrosyne. Know when to persevere and know your limits.
Know your limits, Master Wayne. Endure, Master Wayne.
Or you could wind up like this guy. Remember him? That's the overconfident little prick that tried to frame the Batman. This little smarty pants, Mr. Reese, was taken by some commentators to be an allusion to the Riddler, since Mr. Reese sounds like a homonym for mystery, like the name Edward or Enigma. Nice try.
Admirable, but mistake.
He's actually Mr. Confidence. That's what the name Reese means. Reese means confident. And the script actually says that when he appears with the newscaster Michael Engel, he has a confident air. Wait a minute. Detour. Did you guys know that angel means angel, and in the Greek, angelos or angel means messenger or bringer of news? So he's a newscaster then. That's another name play. One more minute. Wasn't there an angel in the Bible named Michael, and isn't he always doing battle with Satan? Quick Robin again to the Art Museum. Lawrence. Enough already. These guys clearly do not get along, but I want to take a closer look at this plaster sculpture by John Flaxman because it's located at the University College of London. Remember, that's where Christopher Nolan got his degree in English. He's definitely familiar with the imagery. In fact, this image shows up in the movie Inception. Now back to our story. Mr. Confidence should really show some rational restraint because when he goes on the Michael Ingalls show, the Joker is taking out one of the Lions of Gotham and burning them alive on a pile of money, claiming he's going to send a message that everything burns. And it's suddenly revealed that his name is Coal Man Reese. Hear that, Mr. Confidence? You're a coal man, son.
And I thought my jokes were bad.
Yeah, I know my jokes are bad, but that's still the best nameplay in the entire trilogy by my standards. So, Phronesis is the poison pawn. It's going to crush the spirited element of mankind if we don't watch our step. Overconfidence, that is pride, goes before your fall, another biblical Lucifer theme. This brings me back to the Joker's art, in a section I call the art of honor side.
I am the world's first fully functioning homicidal artist.
Nolan's Joker is not a homicidal artist. Nolan's Joker is an honor-sidal artist. Honor, you remember, is the principal driving passion of the spirited element of mankind. The Joker wants the spirit of Gotham to break completely, and he thinks the Batman is just too much fun because the Batman is truly incorruptible and won't kill the Joker due to a, quote, misguided sense of righteousness, another quote. The spirited element, as Plato explains, is the preserving element in both the individual and the state. If honor breaks down in a society, even if that society is a band of mobsters, it's every man for himself, society is fragmented, and the dogs will eat each other alive. Chaos and pandemonium. And if honor in an individual soul breaks under pressure, even if that person is the best of men, they will fall and they will fragment. And every passion within them becomes a personality of its own. Unity and harmony within the personality, like in society, will break down. He's an honor-sidal artist, and there are plenty of examples. Here's the short list. In the opening scene, it's the Joker who carries the bag loaded with harmless, gas-filled grenades. Once his cohorts show there's no honor between thieves, he'll kill them off. But a bank guard protesting that criminals in Gotham used to have loyalty and honor winds up spared. Watch again the scene with Gamble. Fearless eyes, boring, crumbling fortitude. Now you got his attention. That's honor side, and I'll guarantee you that none of the three criminals who turn on each other with that broken cue stick survive the encounter. It's time to die only after honor breaks. 2, ironically enough, he invades an honor guard. Yeah, there's supposed to be irony in that. 3rd, his encounter with Officer Stevens. Stevens is one of Gotham's spirited men, an auxiliary in Plato's state, and consequently he's got a talent for righteous indignation that the Joker can set off by acting like a total prick, in which he can take full advantage of. Watch again in slow motion when Harvey Dent is hauled into the armored car. 2 veteran police officers in the front, the villainous Wirtz to the left, and the honorable Stevens to the right. Stevens claps. Notice the hands of the young men directly behind each officer, slowly beginning to imitate their elders, whether they are good or bad. That's an important theme in this trilogy if you missed it, raising up the youth by example. So, when the Honorable Stevens tells the young officer to simply shoot, the Joker knows for a fact he isn't going to do it. This is the same young man who was standing behind Stevens before, and he's not going to shoot his elder and his father figure. Remember what I said in the first video. Auxiliaries, like dogs, have a hard time with unfamiliar and difficult cases. This youngster knows not to kill, and certainly not to kill a cop. And certainly not to kill a cop he admires and emulates, such as Stevens. You guys didn't spot that, did you? The Joker noticed, and that allows the Joker a clean getaway. Stevens and his young protege did the honorable thing throughout, and the devil took full advantage of him. Not surprisingly, the name Stevens means honorable or crown of honor, so you shouldn't be surprised that the Joker didn't kill him off when he had the chance. The timing's wrong, and I'm kind of glad he survived. You can see him in the background at the movie's end when Gordon is smashing up the bat signal. 4, the Lions of Gotham, and I've said it before, I'll say it again. It's significant that the villains kill off all the Lions of Gotham, and the Joker's going to kill them whether they're members of the police force or members of the mob. It's the spirited element in in Gotham, not necessarily the criminal or the police element specifically that he's after. The lion-hearted man, as I explained, is a higher class of human being on Plato's view, made of silver, not of baser stuff, specifically distinguished by their devotion to honor over wealth and other appetites. So when the mobster Lau dishonorably turns on his fellow criminals, well, that definitely means it's time for that lion to burn. Notice also that the dilemma that Rachel placed Lau into is referred to as the prisoner's dilemma of modern game theory, a common and controversial police tactic. Wait a minute, the prisoner's dilemma. Many commentators have noticed that in the ferryboat scene, the Joker has placed two ships in that same sort of dilemma. What you probably didn't notice is that the police put Lau in the same position. Act dishonorably against somebody who trusted you or else.
But you and your office have been working with the Batman all along.
No, but I trusted him to do the right thing.
Which was...
saving my ass.
All right,
Harvey Dent has the virtue of faith in other people. Even Rachel is struggling with the virtue of trust, whether it's trusting Bruce's decision, Alfred's advice, or even trusting Dent to, quote, make his own luck. But Dent is knocking that virtue out of the park. Speaking of trusting other people, last but not least, the ferryboat scene. Hot dang, I've been waiting to get to this, the Joker's social experiment. I wanted to jump right into the scene, but I noticed that this event occurs exactly at the same time and in conjunction with the hostage scene at the Privet building, which was filmed at Trump Tower. Incidentally, the word Privet means brave or courageous, and since courage is the characteristic virtue of the spirited element, well, that's a pretty good name for a spot to test the fortitude of Gotham, isn't it? You know what? Instead of telling you guys what goes on in the hostage scene, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about John Milton's epic poem, Paradise Lost. Spoiler alert, for those of you who haven't read it yet, and yes, I'm talking to both of you. Bear in mind, in the article I just cited, Charles Bellinger says that in The Dark Knight, Christ is not a character in the movie, but he is present throughout in the sense that the defeat of Satan on the cross through nonviolent love puts Satan on display. Really? Were any of you unable to spot Jesus in The Dark Knight? And don't even bother looking for Waldo in that image because he's right above the J. Let's see if you can find Jesus anywhere in the movie while I just tell you a little bit about the story Paradise Lost by John Milton. This epic poem begins with a war going on in high places, and I am not talking about high places like way up in the Privet building or Trump Tower. I'm talking about way up in the high places, the heavenlies. Up in the heavenlies, there's this Joker. His name is Lucifer. He's having a battle with a certain archangel named Mike. Now, Mike the Archangel, there I did it again, is really getting his ass handed to him. He needs help from a hero. It can't be the one you're thinking of. Batman's not in Paradise Lost. Guess who is? Da-da-da-da-da-da-da, Son of God. That's right, the Son of God swoops into the battle with a secret weapon, mighty thunderbolts in his hands that beat pretty much freaking everything. Musical interlude.
I gotta get me one of those.
Gotta get me some of those. With these mighty thunderbolts in his hands, the Son of God scars the face of the devil. I'm not joking, people. It's straight out of Paradise Lost. Look, here's the reference. Lucifer gets thrown down into hell with his cheek still thunderbolt scarred from the battle, and that brings me to the next point. The Son of God then throws the devil down from those high places. Look at this classic painting by Gustave Doré. See all those thunderbolts chasing them angels out of heaven? But here is the kicker. The Son of God doesn't let the devil fall all the way. No, he catches the devil and his angels mid-fall and actually raises them up, because his goal wasn't to kill them but to simply cast them out of heaven and imprison them. And he even tells the devil,
You'll be in a paradise cell forever.
Okay, I confess, the Son of God did not exactly use those words. Listen, does anybody else see something else Paradise Lost-y going on in The Dark Knight? And were you able to spot Jesus anywhere in there? Good, because I was selling that pretty darn hard. Now back to those ferry boats. Oh, wait a minute. Forgot something. Second spoiler alert. You don't think the devil is going to risk the battle in a fist fight with this guy, do you? No, he has an ace up his sleeve, and that ace is Adam. Oh, you dirty POS. He's going to get surrogate revenge on the Son of God who defeated him by finding somebody made in the perfect image and likeness of the Son of God and taking it out on the second guy instead. God, I hate him. It's worse. He's not even going to go directly after that second guy. He decides he's going to go after the guy's sweetie first. Because you know the Garden of Gotham is nothing without the... dang it. Garden of Eden would be nothing without the person who made it what it was. Forget I said Gotham, okay? Then he swears, evil be thou my good. He swears that at least divided empire with heaven's king, the Son of God, he will hold, and perhaps more than half by evil shall reign. What's up with this guy always wanting his half of everything? Oh geez, hold the phone. This is going to be a long detour. I got some explaining to do. Why does the devil always want his half of everything? It's right here in this famous speech. Whom reason hath equaled, force and thunder have made greater. You see, that's the thing. The devil thinks he's the equal of the Son of God in every way except for power. And he's really bitter about that. Power should not count. So he thinks he deserves an equal portion with the Son of God. That's the reason that Satan retreats in rebellion into the recesses of his mind and his mental games where he thinks he's an equal match to the Son of God. At least there he thinks he'll be free, and even the Son of God, with all his power and strength, has nothing to threaten him with.
You have nothing to threaten me with. Nothing to do with all your strength.
And by the way, this diabolical genius just ended a sentence with the preposition. Just saying. Where the mind is its own place and in itself can make a heaven of hell and a hell of heaven, that's exactly what he sets out to do. In the hell of his own mind, Satan erects a city called Pandemonium. The word pandemonium was coined by John Milton in Paradise Lost. It literally means all demons, and it's the capital city of hell, immortalized in this painting by John Martin. If you want to see the original, you're going to have to go to the Louvre in Paris, but that's exactly what this devil creates. A city of pandemonium. Wait a minute. Use my mind to make a city of chaos?
Upset the established order, and everything becomes chaos.
Interesting concept. Never heard that one before.
I'm an agent of chaos.
Speaking of which, you want to know how he got those scars? Remember what C.S. Lewis said? Satan's original revolt was self-inflicted. In my choice to reign is worth ambition, though only in the hell of his own mind, a hell he brings on himself. Similarly, I'm just going to say it, that the Joker's scars in the Dark Knight Trilogy are certainly self-inflicted. He brings his own ugliness on himself. That's just basic satanic psychology for those of you who haven't taken the course. And yes, again, I'm talking to both of you. But don't take my word for it. It's actually in the script. You can't tell from all of Heath Ledger's ad-libbing, including the words colored in right here. Have to do everything yourself, don't we? That's okay. I came prepared. It's a funny world we live in. Speaking of which, those aren't in the original script. Can't rely on anyone these days. Have to do everything yourself. I always have, and it's not always easy. If that's hard to interpret, read it backwards. Know how I got these scars? Smiles remembering. That's the only time in the script where the Joker is said to be actually remembering events that led to his scars. Have to do everything yourself? Geez, I'll bet it wasn't easy. The scars are a self-inflicted manifestation of the self-inflicted depravity of mind that hides behind those darkened eyes of his. You notice, this is the first version of the Joker on the screen with his eyes blackened. Nolan has a peculiar fascination with the color black and what it represents.
I really love the black spaces. It makes me think a lot about the geography of the painting, about where that figure sits in the world. And I quite like the paradoxical nature of it. The more he removes, the less he tells you really about what's out there, the more I find myself thinking about what's in that dark space behind and everything.
It's the mystery of genuine depravity, self-subverting phronesis behind those eyes. Lucifer literally means light bearer. He was the most gifted intellectually of all the angels, and he literally winds up making a fool of himself, a cosmic fool. He's hell-bent on making fools out of everybody else, distorting and polluting what's good in them and proving that everybody is as ugly as he is. As God made man in his own image, the devil is ambitious enough to want to do the same. So, even if we find something colorful in the character, we know from Milton's prose works that whatever is detestable will be ridiculous and a joke in the long run. The devil is, in the end, an ass. End quote. He's an ass, a ridiculous, stiff-necked Aphron. This is where I take issue with Roger Ebert's interpretation. Ebert writes, Batman Begins went into detail about Wayne's origins, and now it's the Joker's turn. We realize this conflict is between two adults who are twisted by childhood cruelty, one by doing good, the other by doing evil. To the contrary, the Joker's backstory is not what you think. As this painting depicts, and as I've explained, this type of depravity is mysterious. It's entirely a mystery that occurs within a depraved, self-subverted mind and will. The Joker that Nolan envisions is not the sad victim and byproduct of external circumstances like Jack Nicholson's Joker was, and he's not the victim of any internal mental defects like Joaquin Phoenix's Joker. Remember, Lucifer was created a perfect being. Lucifer fell from paradise, not from tragic circumstances beyond his control. So he wouldn't be, some people have supposed, a victim of a military excursion gone wrong, or anything like the hypothesis you've seen on the internet. He would have had an ideal upbringing and an ideal backstory, and he'd burn it all to the ground from sheer bitter envy and prideful resentment. Now, anybody seeing something a bit Paradise Losty in the Dark Knight? Well, I gave it a good shot, so back to those fairy oh, dang it, I just remembered. Last spoiler alert, I'll keep it short, promise. The devil doesn't stay in hell when he gets cast down from heaven. He makes a shaky allegiance with some shadowy figure named Death. And with the help of Death, he gets access through something called Hellgate, which sounds a whole lot cooler than Blackgate if you ask me. And from there, he's unleashed again onto the Garden of Gotham. Dang it! Garden of Eden. The devil gets back into the... You know what? Screw it. If not for the tragic death of Heath Ledger, apparently something like that is what Nolan had in mind for his trilogy. After all, the image of the Joker as Judge has had tremendous impact on the animated series and in the comic books. How could Nolan have resisted it? Why do I still get the impression Nolan is somehow doing sin, death, and the devil in all of this mix? But finally, it's time to talk about those dang ferry boats. While there's this war going on in high places among spiritual forces, at the same time, on the earth below, there's a war being fought for the souls of men and for oh, wow. Geez, wowie, wow. It's beginning to sound a lot like Catholic. Let's try this again. While there's a war going on in high places above between angelic forces that look like it's drawn straight out of Paradise Lost, at the same time, on the world below, there's a war being fought for virtue and the souls of men. So you know that the war going on below is going on in terms of Plato's Republic. How come? You know that because the Batman Code says so. That's how we all know. Now, moving on. The ferry boat scene actually starts with this guy. Remember him? That's the guy the Joker allowed to get captured because he had a name tag which gave the name of a future victim, Rachel Dawes. Did you notice the guy's name? Thomas Schiff. It means twin ships. Look out in Gotham Harbor. The Spirit and the Liberty, those are in fact twin ships. The Joker used the guy's actual name to name a future target. And I'm only going to say this once. If you can make a name play off of somebody's real name, work it into your plot and nobody notices, well, I guess you are a clever devil. Now, it's been argued that the scene was based off the so-called prisoner's dilemma of modern game theory that I mentioned before. That would be admirable, but mistaken. Admirable, but mistaken. At least mostly. Actually, it's based off the Ship of Fools, Republic Book 6. The phrases Ship of Fools and Ship of State are designer Platonic terms. Plato invented them. It's a parable about what happens to a state when it doesn't have proper leaders to guide it. Because remember, Gotham is a garden, is a kitchen. Well, now it's also a boat. It's the Ship of State. Accordingly, imagine a ship where the captain loses control and sailors aboard start quarreling about who should have the right to steer the ship. Everybody thinks he has the right, but they've never learned the art of navigation. Worse, these people don't even think that steering and navigating can be taught. So every ignoramus on board thinks they're qualified to call the shots, and obviously these fools are going to end up stranded or in a shipwreck. But they throng about the captain, getting control by every means necessary, whether by force or by persuasion, and that's exactly what you see on the ferry boats in The Dark Knight. Captains losing control, one by force, one by persuasion. The true captain has to be able to navigate by the sky and stars, but the fools aboard can't interpret the skies and stars and thinks that any person who claims to be able to do it is a worthless stargazer. Now, is there a star and sky reference in The Dark Knight? Yes, there is. Those ferry boats are headed to a port called the Seven Sisters. That's an astrological reference to the constellation Pleiades from the Greek word pleion, meaning to sail. This ancient constellation was known to mariners all over the world in ancient times and was identified with 7 goddesses or sisters. It's so famous, in fact, that it was mentioned 3 times in the Christian Old Testament. In Japan, it's referred to as Subaru, but their version only has 6 stars, and that's why you have only 6 stars on the Subaru car emblem. Shout out to whoever spotted the fact that Bruce Wayne is holding a newspaper on his yacht with the reference to the 7 sisters early on in the movie. Your scriptwriters know what they're doing here. The ferry boat named Spirit obviously refers to the spirited element of the soul, the thymos, that I talked about a lot in the last lecture. That's the faculty by which a person gets high-spirited or angry, so obviously the prisoners aboard the Spirit are going to be described in the script as growing angry, that is, righteously indignant. The ferry boat Liberty represents the mercantile class, and since merchants are persons of business, they are appropriately enough represented by somebody simply referred to in the script as businessman. Something strange happens. Passengers on the Liberty decide to take a vote. Why is that? Heads up, folks. This is important. According to the Republic, the people, or the demos, love liberty even more than they love their money. That's why it's called democracy. Demosocracy, rule of the people. All of the ancient philosophers, Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, hate democracy. They think it's just a stone's throw away from tyranny. These guys had seen the progenitor of their tradition, Socrates, sentenced to death in front of a democratic jury of 500 Athenian citizens. The vote for his death was 140 to 360. Take a look at those numbers, folks. The vote on the ferry boat Liberty in the movie was 140 to 396. How do you get from one set of those numbers to the other? Those top numbers are evenly dividable by 10. Take 36, add it in one more time, time, voila. See? Pretty much the same numbers. That was a tip of the hat of your screenwriters to the death of Socrates and the failure of democracy to get the right answers. Democracy is not enough votes, not enough to save a ship of state. Oh no, if neither vote-taking nor force is going to get the right answer, is the spirit of Gotham going to break? No. Remember, there are still two forces at work in the spirited element according to Plato, the thymos. Need a reminder what those two things are? Here's a hint, and while you're at it, here's another. Those are your old buddies, honor and shame, showing up to save the day. And do remember, honor and shame lie in the spirited element, the chest, the thymos, according to Plato. That's the middle portion in his three-part soul. I want to camp here for a moment because it sometimes looks as though your script authors are using the term soul and spirit as though they were synonyms. For example, when the Joker says he's in a battle for Gotham's soul, waiting for its spirit to break completely, or when the blind prisoner in movie number 3 says survival is of the spirit, the soul, those look like the words are being used synonymously. Trust me, they're not. Remember, the spirited element of the soul is the middle portion, which Plato describes as having a saving or preserving faculty within the soul. If you break the center, spirit, completely, then the rest of your three-part soul is bound to disintegrate. Kind of like what would happen if you break the center or hub of a wagon wheel, if that helps. And that's how the villains of your trilogy are being lined up. Ra's al Ghul, if somebody stands in the way of true justice, you just walk up behind and stab them in the heart, as he says. Goes directly for the spirited element, the virtue of fortitude, with a panic gas. The Joker tries to break the spirited element from above with his superior intellect and turn the dogs of Gotham against one another. And that means, sure as sin, Bane has to strike at Gotham from below. Wait a minute, Mr. The Batman Code. If Bane is striking from below, then he's coming at the mercantile class, and yeah, he did start a class war in that movie. I remember that. But doesn't that mean he's targeting the characteristic virtue of that class? Temperance or sophrosyne? You said the third movie of this trilogy was supposed to be about the final cardinal virtue, number 4, justice. And those aren't the same virtues, are they? Hold up, folks. Don't get ahead of me here. I'm going to cover that. So with that, I've got to leave behind The Dark Knight for a little while, and I'm going to have a lot to say about this movie in upcoming videos, so stay tuned. I pity the Afron who don't watch my videos. Come on now, folks. That was actually one of my good jokes. Stay in school. But now we got to take a look at The Dark Knight Rises. By the end of The Dark Knight, our Batman is more than just a watchdog or platonic auxiliary in a society. He's now advanced to our, quote, silent guardian. That's the highest rank in Plato's Republic. So where exactly can he rise? That's what's up next. We got to figure out what went right, what went wrong. Heck, we got to figure out what went on in this movie. And I've got a big problem to solve here. According to Diogenes Laertius, the entire theme of the Republic was the righteous man. How is this third movie going to be uniquely about the righteous man when that's what we've been studying all along? Well, we have one clue already from Paradise Lost. It looks like we're going to encounter the character of death in the person of Bane. That's a hint for sure. But what does this have to do with the Republic? Now, I've just made the case that the Joker is genuinely a satanic character from Paradise Lost amalgamated with the Fool of the Republic. He's an embodiment of aphronesis. He's the aphrone. Question: if the Joker is the perfect aphrone after all, could it be that Bane is the maximally adikaiosune man? If I can prove that Bane is the maximally adikaiosune, the maximally unjust or unrighteous man, then that, my friends, would be your fourth and final cardinal virtue and a lock on my thesis. Can I do it? You guys know the answer. Guess what, folks? We're about to take a deep dive into the Republic Book 8, where I'm going to prove once and for all that yes, Virginia, there is a Batman Code.